What's up? Welcome to another live stream. Today, we are going to be continuing on with the Game Engine series as usual. Monday night, everyone, be there or be square. Twitch.tv/the Cherno/schedule is where you can see my schedule in case you are not sure when that live stream will be. And also, I wanted to mention patreon.com/Cherno, best way to help support the Game Engine series and get access to Big Hazel as well. So if you guys want to show your support, that's the best place. And also you'll get access to Big Hazel, which is always nice. Yes, I did get a haircut actually. A friend of mine from Adelaide came to Melbourne and gave me a haircut. So that was a bit unexpected, but it happened and it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty good haircut. So yeah. So we got the haircut. What else is new with you guys? This is pretty cool. Like I'm proud of us for doing these Game Engine series live streams pretty consistently, to be completely honest. It's working out really well, I think. So what we're going to do today is I think we're going to basically, like, I have this on GitHub, right? In the repository. I have this like list inside pull requests. No, sorry, inside issues. I have this list of things, to-do list before major work, right? So this is kind of what we'll be doing. No, Peter, thanks for the sub. ER Milburn, first time catching this live. Is there anything that hasn't been uploaded to Unplugged? No, everything Unplugged is up to date with the Game Engine series. And I'll usually post stuff pretty quickly, I think, onto there. Let me just make this like a bit brighter, maybe. Who will be roasted today? Hopefully no one. I think we're past the roasting now, hopefully. I hope you guys enjoyed the roasting last episode. It had to be done. But I noticed a couple of things actually went in as well. I noticed that I actually should probably roast myself because I seem to have broken the Vulcan SDK installation as part of setup. So what I did actually is I think I did this last week or the week before, probably last week. I set the required Vulcan version to 1.3 dot, and obviously this isn't a real version, but the reason why I did that, because it seems a bit weird, but the reason why I did that is because it does like a string comparison somewhere here, and it checks to see if the string contains these characters, right? But the problem is it then uses this same string as a way to download a specific version. And obviously there's no version with like that URL's not real. Or actually no, I think maybe downloads something else, but then because someone said that they get this problem where, see, it's trying to, you can see that 1.3 point, like 1.3 dot string over here. It tries to like actually use that as like to concatenate it as part of a file path, which obviously isn't real. So the reason why this is not a good way to fix it is because I don't want to specifically set it to be like this version. It doesn't matter what version you have installed as long as it's like 1.3, right? If you have the Vulcan SDK version 1.3, that's what we support. That should be good. Again, just a quick reminder, it doesn't mean you need Vulcan. It doesn't mean you need GPU drivers. Like your Vulcan runtime does not need to be 1.3, but the SDK that you use to build does. Because we obviously want to use the latest SDK. Why wouldn't we? Well, not necessarily the latest, because they do break stuff from time to time, but the, a 1.3. That's kind of it. No worries, Peter. Thanks for stopping by. So I think what we can do here to fix this, set up Vulcan, because I do need to fix that. And actually, if we actually end up having like some sort of if we end up having some sort of CI, then this will kind of verify this for us, I guess, by running the scripts. But what I want to kind of do there then is set up. Hey, Demon, thank you for the sub. Appreciate the support. What I want to do with, where is it? Wasn't that set up Vulcan? Yeah. So I do want to leave the required version as 1.3, but the problem is, I guess that's okay, but what I want to do here is, would you like to install Vulcan SDK? And then this is the one, so required is 1.3, but then maybe we'll make another variable called like one that we want to install. So install Vulcan version, and this can be a real version. right? So if we just Google Vulcan SDK, so this way, you know, and we should probably validate. I mean, what do I have installed? Let me just quickly check it out. Vulcan SDK. Oops, that's not. So I do have 2.16, which I think the latest is, it is 2.16. Okay, I think I've probably validated that then. Yeah, so we can say that this is a real version. And then that way, if we just use that here, then we can have both. And so again, like, as you can see over here in the if statement, it checks to see if this string is inside here. So the required version we can say is 1.3 point, or 1.3 dot, which means any 1.3 version. Because obviously all 1.3 versions will contain that string, and so that will work. But otherwise, if you don't have 1.3 installed at all, then the one that it offers to install for you will be this install Vulcan version. So I think that's probably the simplest way to fix that, to be honest. And then obviously you can see that when it tries to run it, it's going to run it from that string, obviously, and download it from that string. So this should be a valid URL, and we can test it out easily in a second. Let me just make sure that that's good though. Okay, so I think that's right. That's probably correct. So right now, if we run setup, which is where, if we run setup, it's going to tell us that we've got the correct Vulcan SDK. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this over here. Oh, maybe not. Environment variables, and Vulcan SDK. So you can see it's that. Let's just change it to like 1.2 because that's the environment variable it uses. So if I change my environment variable here, that should be enough, right? Then it will tell us we don't have the correct Vulcan SDK version. Engine requires 1.3 dot, right? I mean, that's fine. I'll leave the message as that. It makes sense. You need like a 1.3. And then you can see, would you like to install 1.3.216.0? Yes. And then it should download it. You can see that's downloading it successfully. So yeah, we've basically fixed it, but I'll just make sure it actually runs the installer as well, because that's kind of what we wanted. Oh, by the way, thanks, Adam, for the raid. So I didn't even notice. Thanks for the raid. Okay, so that's did that work? Would you like to install? Yes. Okay, that didn't work. Permission denied. Really? Why? Is that the correct path? Do we need to run this as administrator? Can't open file. Separate to point. This is so annoying. Would you like to install? Yes. And we can't. Okay. Huh. But this used to work? Is this just the wrong... So where is it saying? Vendor, Hazel vendor. Just want to make sure we downloaded it successfully. Vulcan SDK installer. No, that seems pretty good. Oh. Another Vulcan SDK instance is already running. Is that the one that... Oh. Oh, here it is. So that did work? Oh, it just already launched it. That's why we're getting a permission denied. I think I just didn't see it appear on my other monitor. That's probably what happened, I think. So let's go back to setup and hit yes. Why is it downloading it again? Oh, I see. So it downloads it no matter what. It doesn't know that it's there already. And then it launches it. There we go. Now it appeared on this monitor because I moved it here. Okay, cool. That's good. We don't need to install again. And I'll just delete that from here. And we'll go back to our environment variables and we'll fix that. Change it back to 1.3. Okay, so that's good. That's fixed. So yeah, we'll just rerun this, I guess, but it should be fine. Yeah. All right. So I'll commit that. This is the right branch. Yeah, this is on master. Setup Vulcan. Fix Vulcan setup script to use an actual version. Still requires any 1.3. Okay. So commit and push. And then we're going to go to that guy who tried to fix it, but made a particular one mandatory, which I didn't like. We're just going to go to him, and we're just going to say that we did it in this commit. Well, no, that's too much. We don't want to require any 1.3 version is fine. But we do need to download an actual version. Okay. All right, staying nice and organized. I also looked at this briefly. So this is actually kind of cool, right? This is, so add selected entity outline rendering. At first I was kind of like lol, but then I was like, no, this is actually really good because like the thing is, it's just like a couple lines of code. And all it does, obviously, is it draws a rectangle around this. And I was like, well, that's kind of useless. But then I realized, no, this is a 2D engine. So actually, this is pretty good, right? Because, yes, we could draw a circle around this if we wanted to. But it's kind of nice. Like, it's not bad to draw a square. A lot of our assets are just going to be textures. So they're going to be basically like, you know, rectangles. And then, obviously, if we have kind of not the circle renderer, but if we have just normal sprite renderers that aren't textured and therefore maybe don't have alpha or whatever, that's going to be the perfect outline for them, right? So we don't need to do anything too serious. Like Hazel 3D, like the big boy Hazel, that obviously, you know, has geometry. And so therefore we use something called jump flooding to basically expand like the geometry a little bit, kind of, on, like in screen space, just to see, just to actually draw that outline. Which is kind of complex to set up. It's very fast, but it's very complex to set up. And it's very overkill, I think, for this. So I don't think we're going to do it for here since we're never going to render meshes in Hazel 2D. So I think this is pretty good. I don't really like the full-on red color, but that's okay. We can easily fix that. So in general, this is good. It's been tested. 2 people thumbs it up. So I'm going to just squash and merge this because I think it's a great idea. Because again, right now, for those of you who don't know, we don't have any kind of selection feedback at all. We can obviously see the selection like in the scene hierarchy panel. So if I open like this pink cube scene, right, we can see if I click on something to select it, you can see it says it's obviously highlighted here, and then we have the properties contextually appear for that. And so therefore we can go through these and you can see on the left here, it is changing, but that's it. There's no like outline renderer. So I think it'll be nice to just quickly merge that in and have that, right? So let's squash and merge that, confirm squash and merge. And if I just go to fork, obviously, and pull that, and if we just, run that, whoops, that's not even the right program. Then we can check this out quickly. What is, oh my, damn it. A stupid fly flew into my tea. Can you believe that? What a jerk. I'm gonna have to make new tea. I mean, I could eat the fly, but I'm not that desperate. I can't believe that. What a jerk. I made myself a nice cup of tea. Anyway, pink cube. Yeah, and so now you can see quite easily we have this red thing. Now we could play with it a bit because it's not, I don't think it's thick enough, and I'm gonna probably make it orange because that's what it is. In fact, let's copy the one that's in, extra protein. You guys are right, but I'm not gonna eat it. I'm not going to, I'm gonna play with the outline like a little bit. We've already merged it in, but we'll just modify it a bit. I want it to be a bit thicker, and I want it to be orange, just like in Hazel 3D. But also, let's go to Physics 2D, right? Yeah, so you can see it's still a rectangle on this, which is kind of fair enough because this circle does get rendered on a quad. You know, you could also just remove the fly. I could, but it's kind of gross. I'm not gonna lie. I could just make new tea. I'm gonna put the kettle on, actually. Okay, kettle's on. Yeah, the only thing that I think will be a bit annoying is if we actually indeed move away from rendering quads. So if we want to, like, say, render some kind of You know, if we have like a texture, like a character in a 2D game, and we want to generate some kind of geometry that tightly wraps the character instead of, you know, rejecting all of these pixels or whatever, because apparently that can be faster. Then obviously we would probably want to fit the actual geometry, but that's okay. I don't think that's a big deal, and we're definitely not doing that now. So yeah. Have you ever encountered an issue where the Windows window on update function is very laggy with vsync on? Like GL swap buffers takes like 200 milliseconds. GL swap buffers. This is on, I assume, since you said GL swap buffers, you're talking about Hazel 2D. No, I haven't. I mean, swap buffers will fully, like, complete the GPU queue. So, it's weird that, obviously, with vsync on only, that's a thing. But usually, like, all of your actual GPU time is inside GL swap buffers, because OpenGL doesn't really let us, on the CPU, you know, continue, like, start the next frame before it's finished rendering the current frame. So yeah, but it's weird that it's happening just during vsync. That's super weird. Maybe open up, if that's happening in Hazel 2D for you, just open up like a GitHub issue. And definitely mention your like hardware specs. Try updating your GPU drivers as well. Someone else also said, someone I think donated 20 bits. Who was it? Yeah, Eo Milburn02. You inspired me to learn engine programming. Thank you for making amazing videos. You're welcome. Welcome to the rabbit hole of engine programming. Good luck. I hope it doesn't destroy your life. Cherno is a C++ wizard. Can you tell me second date tips? Feeling pretty nervous. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be all like cliche and say just be yourself, because I don't know who you are. maybe don't be yourself. I don't know. Just be chill. I think just be chill. Don't get too excited. Be chill, and try and find out like as much as you can about the other person without like talking too much about yourself. That's my tip. Definitely don't get drunk. Cherno, you're the first streamer to actually say my username correctly. Is that right? Because I feel like I did not say it correctly. Okay, yeah, so what I want to do quickly, I don't know where, let me just quickly find a version of Hazel 3D that actually works. That's a tough thing to do, by the way. I actually don't think this version works. Sorry guys, give me a sec. Because I want to basically bring up the outline rendering in Hazel 3D. Just to see what that looks like, and also see what color it is, and then we'll match it, hopefully. What the heck's happening here, bro? But I think I have to, yeah, I'll have to revert this. And is that it? Yeah, I think so. Oh no, actually. Where's VS Code? Just want to quickly undo some local changes that I did because I was teaching a student and I modified some of my shaders to show like just normals and not do tone mapping and whatever, so I just need to bring that back. Alright, cool. Okay. I don't know what version of Hazel 3D this is. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna remake my tea quickly. No more fly tea unless another fly comes in. What was I saying? Oh, where did? Oh, I didn't open it. Okay, so let me just launch this, and we'll take a look at what outlines look like in Hazel 3D. We have some, looks like we have some weird grain going on. Hold on. It's weird, it looks so weird, but let's just reload that. There we go, okay, no more grain. Okay, so yeah, so you can see kind of what the outline looks like. It's pretty thick, it's thicker. I mean, I think we can actually control the thickness, to be honest. Line width, does that control? No. Maybe we can't. Whatever. And actually, if we have something with real geometry, do we have like a nice mesh here? Yeah, bloom text. Sure, why not? Okay, so here's our bloom text, which is actually not a static. Yeah, so you can see here that obviously the outline is like around the geometry, right? So we don't really need that for here. Actually, is it even? Maybe it's not thicker, but it's orange, and I like that orange. So let's see if we can find whatever color that is. I'm assuming that's probably its own shader. So if we just go into Hazel, this is Hazel 3D. If we just go into, I think something happened because I heard a thing. Oh, Echo, thanks for the sub. 4 months. Thank you. And good morning to you too. Privyet, blessed with a lot of ease. Is UI made by Qt? No, it's all IMGUI in Hazel 3D and Hazel 2D. Same tech. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the shader. So the jump flood shader, I think, or the selected geometry shader has the color. That's definitely not it. What the heck's this? Selected geometry. Well, that's white, so that's not it. It's been a while. Oh, maybe wireframe's probably the same color. And that's the uniform. Jump flood composite. Outline color. Yeah, there we go. So it's full red. Okay, so it's just 0.5 green added. So basically, it's very similar actually to this color. It's just also 0.5 in the green channel. So let's go to wherever that happened, which I think was in editor layer. And here it is red, so we'll just make it 0.5. I'm also going to just make these floats. I don't think they're compile warnings, but I just like to be a bit more precise. Placeholder line width. No, that's line width for other stuff. So I think if we, for example, do physics colliders and also show selected wireframe, line width, as you can see, plays an effect there. It just doesn't affect jump flooding because that's not actually lines. It's not being rendered as lines. So it's like the green is physics colliders and the orange here is actual like the geometry wireframe, as you can see, and that's a convex physics collider on the blue. Why is there I guess I generated one mesh collider. So that's what that is. Okay, I think we're done with Hazel 3D, unfortunately. Right, so now that I've done that, yeah, so now it's orange. It's definitely not thick enough. And I'm actually kind of worried that it's being composited. It's not being composited on top, is it? It's just being kind of, it's probably Z fighting with everything. Which isn't ideal, but that's just because of how it's kind of been written. That's kind of okay. Okay, so let's not copy the transform component. You can mark that as const. So the thickness. Oh, wait, this is a rectangle. Wait, what? Oh, draw rect. Rect, not quad. So rect is yeah. Can we set thickness? No, we can't. So, hold on. I mean, it makes sense that we can't because draw line is just going to draw, that's going to be like gel draw elements or whatever with line. So set line width, s data line width. So we actually have to set the line width for the whole renderer, probably. Which I don't think, do we ever do that? Set line width, is that a function? Yeah, it's definitely a function, but do we ever use it? Let's just quickly find all references. No, we never use it. Okay, so in that case, like, I don't know, for editor layer, like once we create the renderer, which actually it's static, isn't it? So when does this get created? I don't like the idea of static renderers, by the way. We'll probably move away from that when we do the Vulcan refactor. Just because with Vulcan, you know, the way that I see renderers, usually, it depends what it is. If it's like, because, so Hazel 3D has, I don't want to talk too much about rendering here, but Hazel 3D has some different like tiers of renderers. Like we basically have like something called a renderer, and then we have something called a scene renderer. And a scene renderer is kind of like a high level you know, that's the thing that defines, say, for example, the different passes, the different render passes, and how we do them. But then it interacts with a lower level API, which is the renderer. And we have multiple implementations for that. Well, at the moment, we just have Vulcan renderer. We used to have Vulcan renderer and OpenGL renderer. We just have two different ones. And that has kind of lower level things like begin render pass and, you know, like render mesh. And so that is static because the renderer has no state. It doesn't, it's just like, it's basically render commands. It's like begin render pass, and here is like all the context you need as parameters. There is no like static context or whatever. So therefore it's just a bunch of functions. It's not really a class. Even though it is formally a class, it's just not, it doesn't have any members or anything. Whereas scene renderer is a regular class, which we can have multiple instances of, so it's not static. And the theory behind that is that you can basically, because Vulcan allows you obviously to build command buffers on different threads, you could have like, you know, 4 different scene renderers or whatever. Maybe you have multiple windows, like you might have like a asset viewer panel up as at the same time as like your main scene viewport. Maybe you have game view and scene view up side by side. So in like cases like that, it makes sense to just be able to obviously multi-thread that. And so we like to just make like a scene renderer be its own thing. The 2D renderer in Hazel 3D, same thing. So we can have as many 2D renderers as we want. They do contain context, and therefore they're not static. So that's why I want to make this renderer 2D also not be static and have this renderer data, right? Again, for OpenGL, probably not a bad idea. Remember, OpenGL is a big state machine, so making stuff static in OpenGL is like totally fine, right? I mean, yes, maybe it would limit you in some cases, but usually it's okay. With Vulcan, you never want anything to be static because everything contextually takes in a command buffer basically, and you write to that context. You don't just like execute GL commands and they just end up on the GPU in like a command list that is completely abstracted away from you. It's up to you to build those command lists or command buffers, same thing. DirectX 12 calls them command lists. It's up to you to kind of do that, and you can do that however you want, and you can submit them to the GPU however and whenever you want, and synchronize them however you want. So there's a lot of control there. Thoughts on frame graphs as a rendering abstraction? Yeah, it's a good idea. I just haven't bothered to set one up. I don't think it's 100% necessary. It's very, very important if you have a very flexible engine. So if your engine's very modular, and it, like for example, if you look at Unreal Engine or Frostbite, like those games have to, those engines have to support such a wide variety of games which have completely different rendering strategies. In that sense, you basically need like a render graph or a frame graph to kind of, be able to do that. Now, Hazel kind of is not trying to be a general purpose game engine. We are going to have a very defined render strategy, and if you don't agree with that, well, you've got the C++ source code, so go nuts, right? And also, it's small enough that it probably won't be significant engineering to redo it. So because of that, like, I don't really see the need for it, and I don't really want to bother trying to set that up and make sure that it works, because obviously with Vulcan, you have to make sure that it works with all of your like resource usage and barriers and stuff, even though yes, it would simplify that once it works. I just like the idea of having stuff defined kind of the way that it is right now in Hazel 3D. It's fine. It hasn't bothered me. And because we're not customizing that to such a big degree, it's not really necessary. The comment still says red, not orange. I'm pretty sure I removed the comment. Yeah, I don't think it's here anymore. Okay, so the thickness, right? So I wanted to set the thickness. Yeah, so we mentioned it was static. Whatever. On attach, I'm going to somewhere here. We probably should just delete this. Why is this here? We don't need this here. This was testing some stuff, but like we've got it in version control if we really, really need it. But what is this? Camera control, adding. So this is like us creating a camera controller. So this is like native script stuff, which again, we're gonna kind of maybe remove-ish, but we'll see. Barriers are a headache. Like automating barriers might end up being a headache, but barriers in general, I think, are pretty okay if you understand them well. And they let you kind of, you know, I like the idea that you can control, you know, what parts of a resource are needed when, essentially, and then allow the driver to reorder stuff for optimal performance. Like, that's a really good feature, to be honest. It's just that, like, if you don't understand them well, then yeah, they can be annoying. And again, I understand them reasonably well, but I definitely need a reference all the time to be like, you know, where is like what is top of pipe bit, what is bottom of pipe bit, like when do I need this done in the rendering pipeline, when do I need it available by, you know, all that stuff. Do you know when we'll be able to export our game? Well, there will be no game exporting, so it's gonna work like Hazel 3D, right? It's gonna work like Hazel 3D in the sense that you just build your runtime and then you get it to load your project and then it just works. So, I mean, that's how we shipped, like, what? How many games have we shipped? Like 4? Like, yeah, like Forest, Fragile, all of that stuff, that's running on Hazel runtime. So it's pretty easy. And since you mentioned that, I might show you quickly what I mean. We're getting a bit distracted here, but it's okay. So if you saw the scene that we opened up in Hazelnut, like it's called Sandbox Project, right? Yeah, and it loads a scene called Prefab Sandbox because in the project settings, that's the start scene. And then if we hit play, we can obviously play this, right? I think there's some script compilation errors or whatever, but you can see we can kind of play this. It just doesn't actually support any geometry for some reason. But here's our game, right? And so the idea is if we want to like ship it, we would make a distribution build and probably tweak some things, but we have this thing called Hazel Runtime, which is a different project. And so if we go into that project and we just tell it to load that same thing, so in like release mode, okay, so this is going to open up Space Invaders, but if we tell it instead to open up the same project that we had here, which is, well, that's the recently most used project. Let me just quickly find it. So let's see, Hazelnut Sandbox Project. So we'll just copy this, go back to Hazel Runtime. So the command line argument was basically what to open, and what is it, sandbox.hproj. So if I tell it to open that, and then we just run like the runtime. Hopefully I don't have weird settings here, actually. I might, because I don't know what branch this is. But yeah, there you go. I don't know if that works, because sometimes OBS can't capture full screen stuff. Looks a bit laggy. But yeah, you can see I'm now playing that same project that we had, but in full screen, and it's running like as the runtime. So that's exactly the same way that it's going to work. I don't know, but yeah, OBS always takes so long to transition. Yeah, so theoretically, you could theoretically take a shift project and open it in the editor. Yeah, I mean, essentially now, yes, because we don't have a proper asset packing system, but in the future, not really, because it's going to use packed assets, right? So that asset packing feature is one of the biggest things I'm working on kind of at the moment, but it's a long story. So there'll be some videos on it when I actually start working on it, because I'm still kind of leading up to it. But yes, since we're going to have built assets, you can't exactly open it. And all of the project files are going to be kind of serialized into binary as well, so it won't really be the same. But at the moment, there's no packing being done. So yeah, just the raw assets are being used still. And that's how we shipped the games that we've shipped so far. All the assets are there. All the like GLTF files are just in the assets directory, and you can open them in Blender or whatever, because we don't package them at the moment. Okay, so anyway, let's move on with Hazel 2D before we get too distracted. So renderer 2D set line width, and I don't know what it is currently. I think 2 actually is the default. Let's take a look. Yeah, it is 2. So let's make it like 3 or something. I don't want to make it too thick, but hopefully this will just make it a little bit easier to see what's going on. So pink cube. Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of, I think it's still not quite on top of stuff. So like if I make this be a circle renderer and take away the sprite renderer, you can see it's a lot thicker. Like, I think it's a lot thicker actually. It's hard to tell. I feel like it's thicker because I feel like half of it, yeah, it definitely is. Because you can see half of it's kind of going in to here. Where's that awesome tool that I like using? Let me find it quickly. It's called Zoom It. It's amazing. I found it recently. And it's great. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I can like, you can like, whoa. That's funny. You can just like hit Control 1 and then you can just zoom in like your display, and then you can hit like Control 2. If I just click, I can like I can just draw on the screen, like an escape will just bring me back. It's so good. It's called Zoom It. It's like a SysInternals Microsoft thing. It's fantastic. So that's my tip for the day. But anyway, so my point, I guess, was we can't have multiple things selected. But the reason why this is kind of so annoying is because that might be a little bit too zoomed in. The reason why it's so annoying is because half of it is got like kind of inside the geometry, right? Whereas obviously this is kind of opaque. Oh, sorry, transparent, so we see all of it. So it's not like perfect. We could obviously render it like without depth testing or doing some weird stuff, compositing it on top, maybe shifting it by Z. There's so many ways we could kind of fix this, but again, I don't really care is the conclusion to that. Because it's fine like the way it is ultimately, even though it doesn't look that best. You can see that it's selected, and again, that's not the point of today, so let's move on. So yeah, this is great, and I did merge this in. All right, that's, yeah, I mean, I've got some to-do stuff, but that's it for new stuff. So we're not going to do this every week, definitely not, because otherwise you can see it's going to take like half an hour out of every session, and since I'm only really going to usually make these streams like a couple hours, it's kind of annoying if a quarter of it or whatever is filled with just looking at pull requests. My flyless tea is great. So yeah, so I don't want to really do that all the time. Okay, so let's kind of fix this first thing, just because it's really easy to fix. So add application specification with custom working directory to fix sandbox not working out of the box. What does this mean? This means that at the moment, Hazelnut contains all of our assets, right? And we can run Hazelnut just by, you know, launching it from within Visual Studio, I say, as we get a compile error. Just added in something accidentally. Don't mind me. Good morning from Norway, says Nike Dev. Good morning to you too. I like Norway. Norway's a beautiful place. One of my favorite places that I've been to. It's a close like tie with Japan. Well, I don't know. I think I still preferred Japan, to be honest, just because it was, I'm kind of used to Europe in a way, even though Norway is different to obviously like, you know, kind of Eastern Europe, I guess, or like Central Europe. But yeah, Norway and Japan are probably my favorite places I've ever been to. Where have I been in Japan? Oh, don't get me started on Japan, guys. I will talk about Japan like all stream with you. But basically Tokyo for like we went there. My wife and I went there on our honeymoon. So we were there for like a week. We went to Tokyo, like 4 nights in Tokyo, then some like village near Mount Fuji for 2 nights, then Kyoto for a night, and then we flew away from Osaka. So we spent like the day in Osaka and then in the evening flew away. That's basically the summary. All right. Anyway, so yeah, so you can see we obviously can launch Hazelnut. All the assets are here. So where are these files that we're loading, you ask? Well, they're all kind of relative to Hazelnut, right? Because that's kind of like all of our assets are here. We don't have the concept of a project yet. That's going to be very important to add, but we don't at the moment. So we just have like assets. It's got all of our stuff here, all of our scenes that you can see we just loaded, as well as resources, which are kind of like more engine side things. So like editor specific things maybe. So like icons, right? They're all kind of relative to Hazelnut. That's great, but the problem is, does that mean then if I want to launch Sandbox, which kind of also needs some assets, like for example, the shaders that we use, right? Does that mean we have to like copy all this stuff into here as we've currently done? Well, no, because what we could do is we could just say that since Sandbox is just like a little test, you know, we could still point it to the Hazelnut kind of directory with all the assets. And obviously the reason why we can launch this from Visual Studio and it works fine is because if we look at the debugging tab in our property pages for Hazelnut, you can see that the working directory is set to the project directory, which if we really wanted to and we could expand it like the macro, it's this directory, which is the reason why it's called the project directory is because it's the directory with the hazelnut.vcxproj file in it. So because that's the working directory, when you run it through the debugger, or at least through Visual Studio, you will get this this will be the working directory and everything's relative to here. That's also why if I just go to the bin directory and I try and run hazelnut.exe, it's not going to work. It's going to say could not open file, and it's just not going to work. And there's a couple of ways to fix this. I could create a shortcut, and I could tell the shortcut to start in hazelnut like this, just like the Visual Studio thing. And if I hit OK and run that shortcut, you can see now it works fine, because again, I'm changing that working directory. Or I could obviously copy the assets into here, and you can see that it actually created like a log and an assets directory with like a cache and stuff. That stuff created the first time I ran it, because this was the working directory. So with Sandbox, that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to set the working directory to be, for Sandbox to be hazelnut. Now, again, it's not, you could say it's not ideal, because it means like log files will be overwritten, for example, with like the ones from Sandbox, and but the thing is, we don't really use Sandbox. That's the thing, right? We don't really use Sandbox. Sandbox is just like a cool little test. And if we launch it now, for example, like I don't think it'll work. We did have an assets folder copied in there, so it might work to an extent. And actually, I think what I did last time, yeah, so I did actually set, you can see I set the working directory to be hazelnut directory. So if we don't do that, if we leave it as project directory, then it's not going to work, and we'll get a bunch of errors because it can't open our shaders. So what I'm going to do is basically set up a way for us when we actually, so what does Sandbox do? It creates a Hazel application. What I want to do is I want to be able to specify a custom working directory, right? So programmatically, I want to be able to say, like in the actual code or as a command line argument if I want to. The point is I want the C++ code to actually change that. So how do we make that happen? Well, it's very, very easy, and I'll show you how we do it in Hazel 3D as well. But basically, all we have to do is somewhere, I like to do this in the application constructor, right? Basically, before we do anything, because if you look at how this actually works, you can see the first thing, like in the entry point, it's not really the first thing, but in the entry point, yeah, sure, we initialize the log, which, let's see if that actually, that shouldn't, yeah, that doesn't refer to any files, right? Like, yeah, it creates a sync, but it doesn't actually log anything, I think. And the first real code we run here is create application, which calls this function, which makes a new sandbox instance, right? Creates a new sandbox class instance, which obviously, since it's a subclass of application, will immediately call the application constructor. So this is pretty much one of the first things that ever runs. So somewhere over here, what I want to do, probably before we even create the window, maybe after we set the S instance, I want to basically set the working directory here. And the way that we do that is, if I just look this up in Hazel, yeah, so we just do std file system current path. And we just set it to whatever we want. So the question now is, what do we set it to, right? What do we set it to? And that's where I want to basically be able to take in, instead of taking in like a bunch of parameters here, what I like to do and what we do a lot in Hazel is we create these things called specifications. And this is kind of, if you're familiar with Vulcan, it's very similar to Vulcan structures, right? So in Vulcan, you have these like create info structs, and you basically just like specify a whole bunch of parameters, a whole bunch of variables and all that, and then you pass in that create info into a function. I love that design. I think it's fantastic, and I have been using something like that for years in my own code because it's just really, really powerful and it's great. So to give you an example, let's go to like, I don't know, pipeline or something. So let's just say we're creating like a rendering pipeline. What we do is when we create a rendering pipeline, and this is in Hazel 3D, you can see we create and then we pass in a pipeline specification. That's the one parameter we need, right? And so what that means, and what is in that pipeline specification, is all of this stuff, right? So again, imagine this as parameters. That would be useless. That'd be so much stuff. It'd be so annoying. But also by having it as a struct, not only is it just easier to deal with because you can set it to whatever you want, if I want to maybe make a variation of this pipeline, I just copy this struct and change like one thing and pass in that new struct into a new pipeline, right? So this honestly is so useful, because you can see in Scene Renderer, for example, when we actually create these pipelines, right, we can like, you know, let's see an example of this. Well, this is a great example of it, right? So we have this pipeline specification for our directional shadow pass. And so we can set up the general pipeline spec with a lot of stuff, right? And then when we create the 4 cascades, and we have to have 4 different pipelines for them because they use different rendering targets, or different render passes, you can see we can kind of modify just that little bit of the pipeline spec. Like, for example, create a new render pass and set just that, and then pass in that same pipeline spec here whilst retaining the common kind of data for each separate pipeline. So I love this kind of idea of specifications, and I don't know if I've used them before. I may have. Yeah, like, okay, so we have like frame buffer specifications. This is more of a refresher because we have done stuff like this before, but this is going to be a good opportunity as well to add one into the application class. So I'll make this struct called application specification, and I like to write the full name. I don't like to write like application spec or whatever. We have this like kind of code style policy as well on Big Hazel, where we like to, at least for like types, we like to write the whole thing out. It doesn't really necessarily have to be for variables. So you can see here it's just pipeline spec. But for types, we like to kind of write the full name of things. So like application wouldn't be app, and application specification wouldn't be app spec or whatever. So just because it's just a bit more readable and understandable to more people. So what's going to be in this application spec? Well, first of all, this name, right? We can just put this here. And we can obviously give it a default name like Hazel. I'll say Hazel application. Why not? And definitely not as a const reference. I mean, yeah, we'll keep it as a string here. And then application command line arguments, we could also say command line args or whatever. That's fine. Args is fine, I think. People are used to that. And then over here, we'll take in a const application specification. I always like to usually keep this, so we don't need command line args anymore. We also don't need the name if we're storing that, which doesn't look like we are. So instead, obviously, we just store like the struct. So application specification, m specification. I always call it m specification in all classes, obviously in a correct way. Specification. This is going so well. Specification. Okay. If we want the command line args, we could, you know, obviously just do that or something. But I think what I'll do instead is I'll just make a, get specification, and then that, since that contains the command line args, we'll just be able to retrieve that whenever we need it in the engine. Okay, so that looks good to me. Let's go to the CPP file and update this as well. We'll obviously copy the specification into the class member. Okay, and then obviously for the window props or whatever, we won't change any of that behavior. We'll just pass in the name just like that. And if we go back, actually, we obviously need to add the thing that we wanted, which is the working directory. So we'll just add a working directory, and it'll just be an empty string by default. Might move this up here. But the idea is, what we'll do is we'll just say if that has been set to something. So we can just say that if that working directory empty, if that is not empty, if it's not an empty string, we're going to set it to whatever is here. Now we could make it like a path. We could make it a file system path instead of a string, but I don't really feel the need to do that. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think a string is fine. All right. Yeah, the color scheme that I made is kind of based on like Grovbox, but I modified it like a bit and tweaked it to be what I wanted it to be. I might release it at some point. Should probably like release it to patrons or something to give you guys like an incentive to like support the project, but we'll see. Okay, so yeah, so you can see we're now setting it. So if let's do a little compile. It's obviously not going to work because I changed a bunch of stuff, I think. Let's just do a Control-Shift-B to build everything. Thank you, Draconan first for the Prime sub. Appreciate the support. Okay, so now we need to pass in. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is again, none of this stuff anymore. It's just going to be, we're actually going to take in, well, this is a sandbox thing. We could make the app spec here. Should we? Or should we just make it? No, I guess we will, actually. We'll probably have to, because it needs to be passed into the constructor. So we'll have that little application specification like right here. And then, sorry, and then we'll call application. So that's us calling the base constructor with that spec. Why are you so upset? It's undefined, is it? Oh, it's a Hazel one. I could using namespace Hazel up here, but I'm not going to, just so it's clear, because it's supposed to be kind of an example-ish. Well, not really. This is going to become the runtime, but whatever. I'll leave it as is. Okay, yeah, sure. So this takes an argument. So what we'll do here is we'll actually build that application spec. So application specification spec, that's what we'll pass in. And this gives us an opportunity to name our application. So we could call this like sandbox, right? And then also we could set the working directory. Now we also should set those command line arguments though, right? Because they come in here and we weren't kind of redirecting them anymore. So now we are. And the working directory, obviously we can go back and set it to be hazelnut, right? So that's the idea. We set it to be essentially what I set it to be inside this debugging thing last time, because I set it to be like that, right? Now, why don't we just set it here? Well, first of all, this working directory variable is actually more of like a user variable, right? This is not in the VCX_proj file, it's in the VCX_proj.user file. That's where it gets saved to. So you're not really supposed to commit that user file, and you're not, I guess by that extension, you're not really supposed to tell someone what their working directory should be as far as in the property pages. So that's just how Visual Studio, I guess, is set up. So that's why like I don't want to do that. This is an easy way to do it. We can just set it up here. Yeah, thanks ER Milburn for the kind words. Yeah, what else has chat been saying? I don't know, whatever, I'm not gonna look at chat too much. Gonna get some work done instead. Yeah, so /hazelnut, and so now I guess if I run sandbox, we'll see if this compiles, by the way, because I did change some API. I did. You can see it works, right? And obviously if I don't set this, the idea is it's not gonna work. Yeah, so we get red and it can't open like certain files, right? So that's basically that. The addition of an application specification, which now should first of all set the name to sandbox, right? I don't know what it was before, but it's now called sandbox, and obviously it works, right? And this is kind of our weird sandbox test, which again, I think we're gonna get rid of this, but it's good that it now works, basically. But the reason why I say we're gonna get rid of it is because again, what is this testing? It's just like testing like the raw renderer API. Wow, we're even writing shaders here. Like why? You know, actually, if we're writing shaders here, why on earth is it failing to load certain shaders? I guess we're still loading other ones. I don't know what's going on here, man. Like, honestly, this needs to be cleaned up. But I'm glad that at least now it works, right? So let's go back to fork and add in those changes. So basically, that, I removed some stuff as well from editor layer. Should I include that though? Oh, we added the line width. Okay, let's do that first then. So editor layer. Let's make it a bit thicker. I want to make it 4, I've decided. Where's editor layer? So the 3.0 will make a 4.0. Get rid of that space. Oh, this doesn't work. No, but it will, doesn't matter. Well, it will work because we haven't committed this yet. So it's a bit dodgy, but whatever. Okay, changed outline color to orange. Made it thicker. Also removed some unused code from editor layer. Okay, so we'll commit that, and then next up we'll commit this. So added application specification. Added application specification along with ability to set working directory. Set working directory for sandbox. For sandbox to be hazelnut. All right, commit and push. All that's good. How hard was it to program Game Engine 1 to 10? I don't know. Depends. So far, Hazel 2D has been like a 3, and Hazel 3D has been like an 8. I don't know. We haven't like might be weird to say because obviously like Hazel 3D, I guess is fairly capable. I mean, this is the runtime. Let's open the editor. Yeah, like, you know, it's been fairly capable, right? Like, we obviously have made games with it and stuff, and it looks like a real engine. I know we haven't done anything too complex yet, but, like, that's kind of the point, I guess, that so far, this project has still been well within my knowledge and ability. Like, right now, like, I'm beginning to explore some things that I haven't ever done before. And I honestly don't know how they work. And so that's been a bit interesting. So now it's pushing into new territory. Finally, like I want to say finally, after like years of working on this project, I am starting to feel a little bit out of my depth, which is good because it means I'm learning new stuff. But for the first few years, it was me kind of just, you know, adding in, like, just working on stuff, and I know exactly, like, of course I don't know every implementation detail off by heart. Of course I need to look stuff up, and you look at reference code and see how other people do it and whatever. But the high level design and the ideas and stuff, I know how everything works, you know. But now it's getting into new stuff, which obviously I'll share with you guys as part of devlogs. And also when we start adding, like, for example, multiplayer to the engine, like, which we want to do kind of towards the end of the year, probably. Like, that stuff is, like, I have no idea how to do any of that. Like, I'm not a networking specialist, so I'm going to have to learn a lot of stuff for that, which I'm excited about. So, yeah. Does Big Hazel use both Box 2D and physics? Yep. So if we use physics, obviously, for 3D physics, and we use Box 2D for like, so see this, like, Box Collider 2D, Circle Collider 2D. This is Box 2D. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess Vulcan, like, when we moved to Vulcan, there was some extra stuff that I didn't really know how to do. That I'd never really done before. And, like, for example, the Bloom project was very interesting because I'd never implemented Bloom like that before. So, yeah, there was definitely some stuff. Isn't Peter... No, Peter's not doing networking. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, networking, we've kind of figured out, like, internally how we're going to do it. We've got, like, a design doc and stuff, so... well, maybe not a design doc, but we know what we're going to do for that, so... It's kind of already been figured out. What icon font do you use for Hazel 3D? So the font, we just use Roboto for everything. All of our fonts in the editor. Will you add light mapping at some point? Yes. So if you guys were paying attention to the ray tracing series that I'm doing on my channel, I did mention that we would have path tracing inside Hazel, which is also kind of what I'm working on. And so since we kind of already have that, we can obviously use that to generate light maps and static lighting. So yeah. Do you have a job or do you freelance? Hazel's my job. This is my job. I'm currently doing my job right now as we speak. Will it be possible to sync physics in your networking? I have no idea. I have not even thought about that yet. So no clue how anything's going to work. I guess we should run the physics simulation on the server or something, but we'll see. Well, because I also kind of want to do peer-to-peer networking, so I don't know how any of that's going to work. Will Hazel 2D have lighting? We might chuck something in at the end, because I mean, no, we will have like basic attenuation stuff, yes, because that's very useful, but nothing too major. It should be easy to do that. Okay, anyway. Does Hazel 3D use bindless descriptor sets? We do for some things. So like a lot of ray tracing stuff, obviously acceleration structures and ray tracing stuff requires you to have the whole scene available in the ray tracing shaders. So because of that, we have to use bindless stuff. Otherwise, how are we going to have every texture in the scene bound at the same time? And every material and every vertex buffer and every index buffer. So yeah, we do use bindless stuff for like path tracing and ray tracing. But anyway, we're getting into future stuff that isn't quite ready to show properly. So let's get back to Hazel 2D, everyone's favorite thing. Now, since I did just do that, I actually just realized that doesn't work. So what I just committed and pushed actually doesn't work. So the reason being that we need to get the specification and then get those command line args, right? I also don't like the idea of like, I mean, this is just a pointer and an int. So I guess it's okay to kind of copy it. I guess it's fine. I'll leave it as that. But I always feel uneasy when there's just copies going on. But I guess in this case it's okay. Let's do a little build. Okay, yes, we need to fix this up. So I did just break Hazelnut, which is fantastic. So I don't know how I did that. I blame Ustream for distracting me. So application specification spec dot name equals hazelnut. We don't need to set the working directory, so we'll just set the command line arguments to args, and then application specification spec. Okay, spec F5. That's the sandbox still. F5. All right, good. We fixed it, I think. Yep. All right. Let's do a little push to fix that. Why is it so hard to write this word? Specification. Good thing we have autocomplete. Not that this is used that often. Yeah, we're done. I better push that because that fixes the build. Okay, cool. Drishdan, thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. So that I don't get 5 ads. I don't know why you guys are getting so much ads. Like, I don't think my settings you know, are set to show 5 ads for everyone who tries to load the page. But thank you for the sub. I'm sorry that I bullied you into it. All right. Oh, Twitch changed the ads policy, did they? Ugh. Gonna have to move to YouTube to stream, right? Like all the cool kids are doing that these days, right? Anyway, so let's close that. So yeah, so that's done. That's great. So textures and sprite render component don't get serialized. Let's power through these issues today. By the way, to give you guys some context on what we're going to be working on as well, we're going to, as I mentioned, like we were kind of trying to decide between whether or not we should do Vulcan or scripting first. I want to clear some up. I will at the end of this stream. We'll talk about that stuff. Okay, we'll talk about basically what's next. I wish I didn't bring that up right now. I don't know why I did. But because some people seem to have the wrong idea. And actually, one thing I'm probably going to start doing, guys, is I'm going to start going through the comments on the Cherno Unplugged video of the last live stream of the last Game Engine Series episode from like last time at the beginning of each episode. So that way, if you guys have questions, you can just chuck them in the comments on the YouTube video. That'll be probably good for the algorithm as well because of engagement. But that way, you know, all the comments are in one place and I can just answer them. Because obviously Twitch chat is cool and I do interact with chat. But that way, once you guys have actually had some time to reflect on what's happened during an episode, maybe you think of something later and then that way you can just pop it in the comment. So we'll kind of probably start doing that. So at the end of this video, at the end of this live stream, I will go back and watch and look at the comments from last time. Streamer thinks we're cool. That's funny. Let's not override the destructor for no reason. Yeah, whatever. I just realized I'll probably push that. So textures. Let's kind of power through this, and then we'll merge dev again. So textures don't get serialized. What does that mean? It's not a big thing. The UID simplification was mentioned in the dev branch. Is there a reason? Pablo, the reason why that happened was because the pull request was made into the dev branch. I'm going to pull the dev branch into master today. So that will be in here as well, yes. So the texture situation, so we have this thing called example, which at the moment is white. Why are you here, bro? Get out. So at the moment it's white. Now this I believe is supposed to be the Cherno logo. So textures, Cherno logo. And we have a very primitive kind of way of doing this at the moment. So we have the Cherno logo, which at the moment happens to be correctly sorted now because it gets rendered in this order. And then we also have this checkerboard background in the back, right? With I think a tiling factor. Does tiling factor not get serialized as well? But the problem is they don't get saved at the moment. Oh, hang on. Why? When I click this? We must not. Oh, yeah, of course we wouldn't. Oh, that's interesting. That's probably not what we want. Yeah, I think... Am I correct in saying that we would probably expect to click on this and select the checkerboard background, not the Cherno logo, even though, yes, technically it's in front? Because I think at the moment, the reason why that's happening is probably because we're not discarding alpha out like completely transparent pixels. We're not discarding them from the shader in the buffer. Yes. Okay, everyone's saying yes. So let's just quickly do that now before I forget. I hate that. Let's just don't move this, man. I always want it here for each view. So assets, shaders, so quad. So we write out the entity ID and whatever, but really what we just need to do is when we sample the texture, we basically just need to say if text color.a equals 0, discard, right? And then we'll just discard that fragment, and then we should be good. That should recompile, right? Don't know how our pipeline works. Wait, will it recompile? I actually don't remember if our shaders will recompile automatically. And actually, I don't know if we do that for circles as well. Oh, we don't even output. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing. Circles. Yeah, we do discard. Okay. No, I don't think they do, right? We have to clear the cache. Yeah, you need to delete the cache. Thank you, guys. You guys know my engine better. Thanks, fake lobster. So examples, yeah, you can see the textures didn't get serialized. But now if I do texture, Cherno square, Cherno logo, this thing, checkerboard, tiling factor. So now you can see if I click on here, it selects the background, and here, there you go. So I'm alternating between these two. Fixed. Okay, easy. Let's chuck that in as a commit. I'm being nice. I'm committing every like little change instead of just one big commit like I always do, because it's better. All right, so fixed. I'll just say mouse picking now selects through completely transparent textures or texture areas. Hopefully that's clear enough. I don't really like that commit message, but whatever. Okay, so now what we can do is make sure that this stuff actually saves. So how is it held? Because we don't really have an asset system, so I'm almost slightly confused as to how in sprite render component, as to how this stuff is even. Okay, it's a ref texture 2D. So I guess we probably could just like hold the path here and have a get path and then just do that. But that's the only way to do it at the moment. Again, when we have an asset system, it will be a bit better. But let's just grab the path. So get path const equals 0. And then if we go to texture 2D or OpenGL texture, let's go ahead and add that in. Override return m path. So we have obviously our path here, which you const. And then if we go to the serializer, let's look at sprite renderer components. So all we serialize is color at the moment. So let's look at texture, get path. So that obviously is only if we have a texture. So if we have a texture, we'll grab the path, we'll serialize that. Otherwise, if we just find the deserialization code over here, source texture equals. So this is obviously if we have, again, that texture node. So texture, I might just call it texture path. I mean, it's clear that it's a path, but I'll just be a bit more precise because in the future it won't be a path. It'll be like a UUID, which we're not really doing at the moment. So source texture will be texture 2D create, and then obviously we'll take in texture path as SCD string. Thank you, Cherno, for the prime sub. Appreciate the support. All right, there you go. So now hopefully we should be able to save and load textures. Easy. Have you ever thought about doing another really simple engine like Sparky? Well, this is kind of, Hazel 2D in a way is kind of like that, but like, I don't know. Sparky was a little bit more like a framework, I guess, because I don't know, if you define a simple engine as something without an editor, it's like a framework, maybe. But I don't think I would do that. Just because like, I don't know, guys, like I feel like I'm at a point in my life in a way where I want to actually begin using the tech that I'm making to make stuff. Because again, the goal of this tech that we're building is not to just build the tech itself and teach it, which I do want to do as well, obviously. That is one of the goals. But it's also like, it's also to use it to like create, right? So I want to be able to like create art essentially, you know, using Hazel 3D and stuff, as well as make games with it, and that's kind of one of the big goals. And so if I'm just always building little frameworks or whatever, that's not really how that works. It's not really how we get work done. So that's why, yeah, ultimately, like I don't think I would ever do something like Sparky again, unless like someone was like, you know, you have 48 hours to make a game. Sorry. You have 48 hours to make a game engine. In which case, I guess maybe I would do that sometime, but that's not much time. All right, checkerboard background gets checkerboard. Yeah, so tiling factor doesn't get serialized. I just realized that does not get serialized because it's not there. But if I save this, which we don't have okay, we need a save button. We can only save as, which obviously brings up the dialogue. So that's really annoying. Assets, scenes. I think someone had a pull request for that. What's this, example? Is that the scene that unloaded? It's example, right? Yes. Okay, so let's close this. Game engine jam. Yeah, that's pretty insane. That would be pretty insane. Okay, there you go. So yeah, tiling factor did not get serialized. And I know it didn't because it wasn't in the code. So let's add that in. So tiling factor you don't really need unless you have a texture, I guess. But I guess you should serialize it anyway. Because thanks. Because you can obviously set it anyway. So even like if someone sets it but doesn't apply a texture, you probably expect that to be saved. So for that reason, let's move it down here. So for that reason, I am actually going to obviously set it anyway. So tiling factor as that. Now for legacy reasons now, and also just in general, we should have these ifs here. Because obviously we're not going to be able to load any scenes that don't have that. Will crash because it's going to expect this to be here, but it's not really. So we need to be careful when we are dealing with like save files and stuff and like formats or whatever, because you need to make sure that you support older versions. Tiling factor. Yeah, so from now on it will always be serialized, but we'll still be able to load scenes that don't have that. And you should probably just have that on all your variables, to be honest. Just load stuff if it exists rather than that. Okay, so example. So now let's set this to like 10. Let's save as. Let's override example. Let's close the engine. Let's F5. And we should now have a tiling factor of 10. Beautiful. Now I really want to do that control S button situation thing. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But we'll see. So texture, yeah, so we added that obviously. So we serialized textures and also the other thing. I'll include that. texture in sprite, texture and tiling factor in sprite renderer component is now serialized. Dunsies. Okay, merge dev into master again. Okay, that should be easy enough. Let's just merge into master. Manual conflict resolution, really? Let me just, what is dev? Doesn't dev just have this? What else does dev have? What's, cause this is in physics, and we've merged physics in, didn't we? Yeah, we merged it here. And then we also, rearrange and include file, no, that's on master. What's this? Oh, that was someone's pull request. So we probably want to, I don't know. Actually, what do we want to do with that? So hold on. So what exactly is the divergence here? Added circles. I mean, we have circles though. Oh, because dev was a... No, we do want to cherry pick this. We don't want to merge dev into master. We just want to cherry pick this, I think. Yeah, let's cherry pick that. So we'll cherry pick that, and then I guess we'll also cherry pick this. Because those... And I'll just delete both of those branches, because we really don't need them at the moment. So where was this? 472. Yeah, so we don't have any of that here. So yeah, let's also cherry pick that. So that committed that, right? Yep. So let's cherry pick that. Okay. So now, yeah, so now we have that stuff. Let's just do a build all. We have circles at home. We should rename the master branch to home. That'd be cute. Isn't it cool we can save this now? I mean, we still want to, obviously, be able to Control S, which we'll get to. But yeah, so that's basically done. Let's push that. Push these. Pushing so much. This is the most active engine on GitHub at the moment. That's probably a lie. Okay. So, what's next? Oh, save. Oh, well, would you look at that? The next feature is literally the save feature. Oh, it's in dev, though. Well, whatever. We can merge it into dev and then... Yeah. So, let's see how this works. I mean, it does obviously work. Save scene, control, shift, save scene, save as. Yeah, even control shift S works good. Duplicated code, blah, blah, blah. At least it works for now. That's the spirit. No, this is a local variable. You don't name them n or m underscore. But I don't really care. What? Look at this. This is a why? Why is this here? Don't you mean not having that because it's here? This must be a bug. Well, whatever. I don't really want them to resubmit this. I mean, it's going to the dev branch, so we could like fix it in dev if we really wanted to. So let's just merge it into dev, and then let's see what the code is. Fetch. Dev. Okay, so there's that save feature. Yeah, that does seem weird, doesn't it? This should not be here. I guess we can go into dev and fix it quickly, and but then it won't really be. Can I just like cherry pick it but not commit it? Oh, commit the changes. Okay, submit. Oh, really? Manual. What's conflicts? Ugh. Why? Yeah, so editor scene path. Oh, that's the new thing they added, right? Why can I not go back to fork? Oh, really? Fork is unresponsive while this dialog is up. Thank you. Editor scene path, yeah. So I guess that's the new thing, right? Okay, well, but active scene file path. But what's that? So what's editor scene path then? Isn't that active scene file path? Or is that the... Well, yeah, it's the same thing, look. But edit scene path.string. So is that a file system path? I'm going to say we don't need this. Let's select this. Because, again, I just... This doesn't even have an active scene path. That seems better, though. I don't like edit the scene path. Because what does that mean? Save scene. So save scene here. If active scene path is empty, save scene as... Wait. Are you saying we already have this? It almost looks like we already have this. But I don't think we do. No, look, we do have save scene. No. Yeah, we do have save scene. Right? No, this is part of... Oh, this is head. Serialized scene. We just don't have the shortcut for it. Ah. Okay, I regret everything. Abort. Abort. Let's go back to what we had. So we do have serialized scene. Sorry, it will save scene. If we call save scene, it'll do that. Oh, have we broken this? Or is IntelliSense weird? The IntelliSense is weird. That's predictable. Why are you still giving me errors? Would I have to restart you, Visual Studio? Is that what you want? Okay, where's our key pressed? Wait, we have that. We have Control S. What? So, do we just not have it in the menu bar? Is that what it is? Yeah, we just don't have it in the menu bar. Lol, okay. Weird, but whatever. Okay. Let's check this out. Okay, so saves here now. What am I doing? Example. Let's make the Cherno logo like red. File save. Close this. Probably the easiest way to test it. Okay, it's red. Let's make it normal. And let's Control S. Get rid of that. Okay, so Control S was there all along. Actually, what is what happened. So what I've done is I've just merged, yeah, that's perfect. I've just merged in this guy's pull request, and then I'm gonna just delete the branch. I merged in his pull request into dev, and now I'm just gonna delete dev and not ever merge it into master. Brilliant. Added file, save. Okay. Okay, so now to delete the branches, basically, guys. So are we sure, though? That's probably what we should ask ourselves. So is there anything in the branches that we want? No, we have circles. Copy component and copy component if it exists as variety template stuff. Yeah, this stuff, actually, I don't think we ever merged. Did we? We could just, yeah. Scene copying, entity duplication, UUIDs. Obviously, we have all of this. No, we should have. Look, because we merged this. Wait. No, we never merged that. Yeah, because dev was never supposed to be merged. That's right. So I made a bit of a blunder when I said that merge dev into master. So save feature's done. Because we never merged. So dev was a branch that I used to plan stuff out on live streams, physically work out how to do it, implement it, do all of that stuff. And then that way, when I sat down to actually record the episode, I could do it, and it was usually done in the physics branch at the time. So physics did in fact get merged back into master here. And that obviously should include stuff like UUIDs. Here it is on the physics branch. So here it is on the dev branch. That was like the trial run, me working out how to do it. And then UUIDs was the physics branch, which is me recording the episode for YouTube. So, what if you press Control S without an active scene? I don't think that will matter. It will save your scene as. Because I remember that code was there. See, if it's empty, it will try and save it as or whatever. Anyway, so I don't know. It's hard to tell, obviously, if we really do have the same code. And obviously, with pull requests like this, I don't actually think we do have it there. So this supposedly goes through and actually copies all components when we do that instead of this. And I'm pretty sure we don't have that. So I do want to take that. So we'll probably have to cherry pick that. So where was that? What function was that in? Copy. Oh, no, we do have that. Never mind. What about duplicate entity? Well, yeah, we do have that, actually. So never mind. I thought we didn't for some reason. So copy component if exists. Yeah, we do have that. I thought, for some reason, I thought we had it for like something, but not for copying and duplicating, which doesn't make sense. Of course we have it for that if we've got it for other stuff. Okay, never mind. So added missing entity ID parameter. We did cherry pick that. Simplify UID. So did I did. Yeah, I did just cherry pick that. So that's it. Okay, brilliant. So let's delete origin dev and delete physics. Damn, look at that. And then I don't know if we have to push that. But if we go to GitHub now, I believe that's it. All right, we're just left with master. So hopefully we didn't delete any actual work, but whatever. I'm sure someone has a checkout out of you guys, right? It's the good thing about a distributed version control system. Okay, we're looking pretty swell, I think. Look at all this stuff we've done. Okay, so better circle collider visualization. So that's because it closed this 33 seconds ago. What? No, I didn't. Oh, is this because it was to a branch that got closed? Where was this pull request for? Oh, into physics. Yeah, well, that explains. So I just took down a bunch of stuff. So yeah, if you guys have pull requests that are for master, then you have to now make them for master because I just deleted the branch, so lol. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that this is kind of donesies-ish. We probably should revisit that. Let's just refresh this actually, because it'll save us close. Okay, sync hazelnut window with active scene name. Do we really need to do that? I guess we should. But there's just so much stuff here. Like 11 files changed, man. Let's... Oh, because you actually changed all the assets. Ugh. This just seems like a lot of work, bro. Use string, use FMT format for this stuff. And again, adding editor scene path. Like, we've been through this, man. It doesn't, don't we already have that? Don't we have active scene path? Is this not, is this old? I guess it's old. Because our editor layer obviously has that, right? Active scene path or whatever. Active scene, editor scene path. Oh, we have editor scene path. Didn't we have active scene path? Whatever, don't care. It's just a name. Do the Sparky videos still hold up to the current Cherno standard? Of course not. You know, if they did, then it'd be a bit weird. It means I haven't really grown as a programmer in like, what, 7 years? Which would be upsetting. No, I mean, like, look, there's some decent stuff there, but I would definitely write it very differently these days. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, okay, so yeah, so now we actually have names for our scenes. This is kind of major. I don't really want to do this now, especially because when we have project system, scene names will, like, we'll see. We'll see kind of how it works. Hangman's Moose, thank you for 2 months of subbing. Appreciate the support. It's a shame Cherno never made a tutorial about 3D physics. No good tutorial about this topic. You mean how to like integrate physics? I mean, the physics documentation is pretty good. And it's to be honest, it's like the concept is very similar to what we did with Box 2D. It's just like in 3D. So I think you could probably piece it together. It's not as hard as you think. Goodbye, Nike Dev. Okay, so let's see. So I don't want to do this really. README logo stuff is rubbish, and then this stuff, like the README, that's not, yeah. So offset fixing stuff. So this I probably do want to merge in, right? Because this is probably important. Because, yeah, offsets. That's right. So we do want offsets to work. So at the moment, they're claiming that if we have collider visualization does not match the actual position of the collider when using offset. So, yes. So if I run our physics thing, let's just verify this real quick. If I show physics colliders and we maybe set an offset here, so you can see like we have an offset of -1. If I hit play, you can see it doesn't work. So the collider I think actually does work. It's just that you can see by the geometry that the offset did not apply. Like, you know, we should be seeing basically everything should be shifted to the right. We should be seeing the collider in the right place, and then this sprite should be off because we've offset the collider by -1 on the x-axis. So that's what should be happening, right? And you can see that it's obviously not. So because of that, SDF text rendering tutorial we will probably do because we'll need obviously text rendering in Hazel 2D, and that will use sign distance field. So yes, we will cover that eventually. But again, it's not that difficult, and we'll use like MSDF Cherno or whatever, so it'll be a piece of cake. So let's see, what was I doing? The offset stuff. So let's see. So let's see what's actually happened here. So rotation has been added somewhere, so that's a bit weird. So rotation has been added to box 2 collider component. Why? Why has rotation been added? Especially because it doesn't seem like it's used anywhere. Like I can see it's used here, but I just mean like it's not present in the UI or anything. So why would it be anything other than 0? Rotation's a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah, I don't see it being used anywhere. Like there's the transform component rotation. Oh, here it is, BCD to rotate. No, but again, that's not. I don't really understand why it's there. This PR is for the rotation of the visual collider. Well, yeah, but what I mean is like, so there's a rotation variable now in the box collider 2D component. So my question is, how do we set a rotation for this if there's no UI for it? The offset I get. Yeah. Got it. Why has this rotation variable been added to this? Start a review. I've never done that before, but sure. Pending. Does that mean they have to now answer this? Answer my question. Alright, whatever. So yeah, we'll kind of leave this open a little bit, but this stuff has been done. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna like hop off, honestly, because this was a pretty decently long stream. You need to request changes on that PR. Do I really? Why? I've already added like a comment or whatever. I need to request changes. Why is this so difficult? How do I request changes? Didn't I? Why is it? The review is pending. Well, yeah, I thought that's because they didn't see it. How do I request changes? Request changes. Nope. Top right. What do I add, like a reviewer? Files. Oh, files changed. Oh, there's review changes. Oh, right. So I have to add. The idea is, I guess, I add a bunch of these things, and then I submit it, right? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, request changes. Here we go. Submit. Changes requested. That's kind of cool, I guess. This will be nice. Look, requested changes now. This is cool. This is not bad. Nice. Thanks, guys, for the GitHub tutorial. Appreciate it. Yeah, so, I don't know. We did a bunch of stuff today. What did we do today? A little summary. So, well, today's what, the 4th of July, right? Yeah, so basically did, like, all of this. So, lots of stuff here. Hopefully everything builds and works now. Let's also try debug. I mean, I'm sure that should be fine. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the sesh. I'm the author of this PR. Oh, that's nice. You're in chat. And I needed to add the rotation attribute because box2 setters box does need a rotation argument. You can probably just set it to 0, though. Like, you don't need to. The thing is, like, the reason why I don't like extra stuff being added here is, remember, this is an entity component system. Like, we're trying to keep components as slim as possible, because every time we add more memory to a component, it will occupy more memory, and that's not, like, ideal. I mean, I know it's only 4 bytes, it's not too bad, but still, like, I don't want to have needless parameters there, if that makes sense. It's a bit different than, like, if you had added a float to edit a layer, right? Because this is part of an entity component system. And we did talk about that in length, because someone added, like, a lot of caching stuff to transform component, and that would just basically triple the size of it, or almost quadruple the size of it, which was just a bit, like, that actually would have a negative performance impact. So that's why, like, yeah, I'm pretty, like, pedantic, I guess, about, like, what actually should be here, right? We don't want to needlessly add stuff. I've tried it without the rotation attribute, but it does not work. Okay, well, let's take a look at it then. Let's see, where was your thing? Again, I don't, like, yeah, we'll see. Here it is, right? So you're saying that, so scene CPP 355. So that looks wildly wrong. So setters box. So I guess here. So this takes in some extra arguments, right? So center and angle. Well, yeah, so basically what you probably should have done is just, like, the center should just be, like, the offset, right? So what is that? A B2 vec2. Offset.x. Offset.y. And then just, like, 0. That's it. And I'm assuming that's basically the PR fixed. You did do some other stuff, which I'm not sure about. But let's, like, if we now offset this, unless, like, it does rotation in some weird order. Ah, okay. So, that's why you've got, I assume, the rest of this stuff. But wait, but how are we doing the rest of it? That's a bit weird. It's like it's applying a rotation in the wrong place. That's center. Sure. Oh, no. Okay. That's also a bit weird. I just realized, like, why are we doing it this way? Because obviously, like, I mean, the offset to me, I don't know if center should be the offset, right? Because, yeah, like, see, the position here is set to that. So, like, I feel like, do we not have a position here? I guess we don't. So there is no MP here, which that's the position. So position is in a circle shape, but not in normal shapes. So instead we have the center variable. And I guess that defines where it is. But no, but the body also has a definition. But then I guess we're trying to offset specifically the shape, right? It's a bit weird. This whole thing's a bit weird. I don't even know what the expected behavior should be. Oh, that's weird. We shouldn't scroll when we're on this panel. So what's happening there? Where is it actually sitting? It would have to be like here, right? That's bizarre. Because I guess we've offset the center point. That's so weird. Let's have a quick look at so set as a box. I wanna look at this. Center the box in local coordinates. Well, I guess that makes sense. Okay, you're saying you explained it in the PR. Yeah, okay, I see that. But the thing that I'm concerned about with, like, is whether or not the body is in the right place. I guess it is, though, because this is flipped upside down, and so the body is like, what, here? The thing is here, and this renders here. But why does it flip like that? That doesn't... Does that make sense? So let's check. Let's take a look at the visualization. Where does that happen? Do we do that in scene? In scene renderer, or we don't have a scene renderer. Render scene. Does that happen in editor layer? Overlay render. Yeah, here we go. All right, so yeah, okay, so I guess this is where you did it. Yeah, but this is... But this makes sense. So, but this is 0, so this is nothing. If it's 0, unless something writes out to rotation, but it can't because it's not capturing it by reference. So I don't really understand why that's necessary. So minus 0.5. Oh, well, that's it, I guess. Yeah, that seems legit. Okay, cool. So what changed here then? What was it before? Let's just compare it. So what do we do? We just added... What did we add? Oh, we added extra translation. We pushed it a bit in the Z and then added the translation after the rotation. Got it. Because that's the center point. If we change the center point and then rotate it, it rotates around the center point. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, in that case, resubmit that PR, but just remove this. Can I go back to the thing? So I want you to remove rotation. Set last parameter to 0. Remove this line. So the rotation line, right? And then obviously it'll be the same thing here. So the GLM rotate with... Oh, there is no rotation here. So here is just translation scale, but here you had a rotate, which does not exist. So remove this line. Set last parameter that, and then remove this. Okay, so just do all that, and then I'll merge it in, because I've tested that and that seems to work. But we can probably do that next time. All right, guys. So now what I want to do is I kind of want to talk to you about what like the next steps kind of are. So obviously we did like that kind of poll last time, and I was going to look through the comments actually. So let's do that. But I did that little poll last time. So most of you guys wanted me to. I'm in the wrong channel. So, Cherno unplugged. We'll take a look at this in a minute. Huh. Okay. So what I want to do is, yeah, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we're going to do next. So I'll look through the comments of the last video in a minute, but ultimately we are going to probably start from next week. So next Monday night, same time and everything, we're going to start doing the C# integration. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like yet. We'll probably plan it a bit, and I don't know if we'll start like by trying to embed mono and just running some stuff. We'll see. We'll have some fun with it. It should be okay. Thanks, Doctor, for the nice haircut comment. Yeah, we're going to start small kind of, and then hopefully build up to having like a proper C# integration like we do in Hazel 3D, for those of you familiar with that. So I'm gonna have to probably talk to Peter throughout the week, just so that I have a rough idea of how on earth to do this, because a lot has changed since my initial implementation. But that's very exciting, obviously, because it means we'll be able to actually build some, like, we'll be able to basically build a game without sound at that point, once C# scripting is in. I mean, we could do that right now in C++, but it's more fun and better to do it in C#. And it also should mean that we'll even should be able to debug C#, like running in Hazel, because we have an extension which Peter made for Visual Studio, which is called like Hazel Tools or whatever, and that includes like a C# debugger, which we're using in Hazel 3D. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. That's basically the plan. Now, a lot of you actually, like, I read some comments over the week as well, and a lot of you guys said that, like, we should do C# scripting first. because Vulcan is going to be like, take like half a year. I don't know where any of that came from, because I'm pretty sure I explicitly said that the Vulcan, switching to Vulcan, like we're going to do in one day. Like I'm going to set aside a day. I'm going to start in the morning. I'm going to live stream all of it. And I reckon in about 8 hours or so, we should have everything switched over to Vulcan. Like I'm confident in my abilities that I'll be able to do that. It's not going to be like a half year thing. It's going to be like a day. But that being said, the reason why I personally decided that I still want to do C# first, even though that will probably be like months, or maybe a couple months, I don't know how long it'll be exactly, is because that way when we switch to Vulcan, we can have like a proper before and after thing. If we put C# into it first, we already have something that can obviously make a game. Then I'll probably get Tim to actually make some art for it and actually make a little game. And then that way we can be like, hey, look, we made this game in Hazel. And then when we switch to Vulcan, we can see that same game, but rendered in Vulcan. It'll be like a good A/B comparison, right? But if we have nothing to begin with, that's not really feasible, right? It's not going to be as dramatic of a change or anything like that. So that's why ultimately I wanted to do that. They were saying that because they saw it takes 800 lines for a triangle. Yeah, I can write 800 lines quickly though. And it's not 800 lines for a triangle is like, that's fine. Don't worry. Like, well, it'll be fine. Vulcan's really not that bad. So we'll still do, we'll do that eventually. We will do C# first though, okay? Wouldn't C# need more time to set up on Linux? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is last week's episode of the Game Engine series. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read through the comments. I had different hair back then. So long ago. So, Cherno was really roasting everyone. Wonderful day. Okay. Yeah, it was a bit of a roasty video. This was like the roast edition of the Game Engine series, which was funny. So I totally agree with Cherno that we should implement C# scripting first because, firstly, it may be kind of easy than Vulcan. This is the opposite. C# scripting is going to be much harder to integrate than Vulcan, for me personally, because I'm a graphics program. I'm a rendering person. So that's why, like, for me personally, this is going to be more just because it's going to be harder because it's not something I'm as familiar with compared to Vulcan, which I use Vulcan very often when I'm working on Hazel 3D. But anyway, that way we can create something with the engine. Well, yeah, that's why. If we implement Vulcan, yeah, that's nice, great, but now we can render a triangle in not 10 lines of code, but in 1,000. That's great, and we literally lose like half a year. So this must have been, Kenny Tutorials must have been the reason why I just said what I said before. But basically, yeah, we're not going to lose half a year on it, or lose like a year or half on it. No, it's going to be like a day. And yes, it will increase the code base or whatever. But again, a lot of stuff's going to stay the same. Like, the reason why I'm confident it's going to be quick is because we already compile our shaders into SPIR-V, right? So the whole shader compile situation is there. We already have the Vulcan SDK linked because that's what we use for the shader compilation, right? And obviously stuff like shaders don't change. Stuff like the renderer doesn't really change much. It's a 2D renderer. Like, it's really going to be easy. The hardest part is going to be probably writing the swap chain. And then, like, I don't know, that's probably it, to be honest. The swap chain and then writing all the little pipelines, but that's easy. So it'll be fine. But still, we're not going to do it immediately. So yeah, so that's why, like, I just wanted to mention that, like, it's really not going to take that as long as you guys think. It's going to be like a day. Anyway, I really do appreciate the effort you put into this, especially while working on Big Hazel and Ray Tracing Series Parallel. Thank you, Future Blur. Even though you could have just abandoned it at any time. True. Just finished watching the entire 3-hour video. Nice. I'm going to love that comment, but I have to sign in for that. I'll love it later. I don't know what, yeah, I don't know why I'm not signed in here. I really enjoyed the roasts in the chat. It's gold content. Thanks for putting all this out for free. You're welcome. Patreon.com/Cherno if you want to support it. I really like the style of video. Merging the PRs is fun to watch in chunks as I go throughout my workday. Yeah, I like, you know, with these live streams, like, I have a feeling that obviously you guys hopefully do enjoy just having them up and running while you're working or whatever. Especially like the longer ones. Definitely scripting first, tried it a few times. Well, yeah, like the way I think about it is like Vulcan isn't really that necessary, even though it will be a quick task. But scripting actually is kind of necessary and will probably apply to no matter what render API you're using, obviously, and stuff like that. So therefore, yeah. With the enums and specialization, I remember arguing with my friend one evening about which is better. Yeah. I don't know. Switches or if statements. Like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, who cares? Okay, we read that. Plugin API system for all the render scene to printer. Yeah, that was funny how I mentioned. Because we're going through some pretty weird pull requests. Blah, blah, blah. Confident to switch the current rendering system from OpenGL to Vulcan in roughly a day. Me working on that since a year mentally, like 2 weeks pure worked. Well, yeah, but you know, I've been using Vulcan since before it was released, like back at EA. So, you know, when they were still like, the drivers were still in beta and were very crashy. So like, obviously I've been exposed to Vulcan for a very long time, and you know, that's the thing. Like when I'm telling you guys, like a lot of people are afraid of Vulcan, and I get it, it's a lot, but it's kind of like, you know, if you don't understand something, then it seems very overwhelming. But once you understand it, and like physically once years have passed, then of course you feel more comfortable with it. And then you start to look at it from a different kind of perspective where you're like, well, actually, like this isn't that like verbose. Like, yeah, it's very verbose, and it does require a lot of physical code, but it all makes sense why it does. Like everything fits together like it should, you know? But in the beginning, obviously, when you look at like, when you list out like, what do I need to render a triangle in Vulcan? Well, I need to like, you know, set up a Vulcan instance that has like certain extensions, you know, that I need to like enable or whatever. And I might need to like retrieve certain function pointers to be able to like create a surface or something, you know, from like, you know, the KHR thing. And then it's like, well, you have to select like a physical device. And then what about like queues? I have to select queue families for a physical device. Like what are queues? When you don't know any of that stuff, it can be difficult. And then it's like, well, you create a logical device, and then you have certain features you enable on a logical device, and then you have certain layers or extensions or whatever that you also can enable. And like, you know, it kind of gets a bit complicated. And then it's like, well, okay, what's the next step? Oh, well, I want a swap chain. Well, I don't know, man. What's the color format of your swap chain? What's the depth format? You know, what's like, you know what I mean? Like, how many swap chain images do you want? You know, what kind of swap chain are you creating? Is it an Android device and you just get a surface, or are you trying to make a window like with GLFW? And obviously, like, it starts to get kind of complicated, but every part of that process makes sense. You just need to learn it. And that's why, like, you know, fences and semaphores, like, you know, it doesn't make sense. But once you learn what it is, like a fence is simply a way for us to pause CPU execution until we wait for a GPU to signal a fence, like that makes sense. So fence is like literally a good example of a fence is just like how OpenGL currently works, right? So if we look at what we have inside our window class, you know, we have GLFW, you know, we have context swap buffers, right? GLFW poll events or whatever, OpenGL context swap buffers. This is basically a little fence, because what we do here is we say, hey, GPU, can you now do the work that I've told you to do? And I want us to physically pause in C++ land, like until you tell me that's done. So that's the equivalent of me creating a fence, submitting a queue in Vulcan with a fence, and then calling VK wait for fences or whatever the function is, to wait for that fence to then be signaled before I continue on with the rest of my program. So that's the fence. And a semaphore is just like a GPU queue to queue kind of synchronization thing as well. Kind of similar to a fence, but a fence is a GPU to CPU thing, whereas a semaphore is GPU to GPU. Anyway, point is, like, everything makes sense. Everything is like fine. Like it all should exist. It's not needlessly complicated, which is good. Like Vulcan is actually kind of simple when you think about all the stuff that it's trying to abstract. So I actually really, really like the API. I think it's really good. I think they did a pretty good job on it. Anyway, enough about Vulcan. But yeah, it would be fun to do that at some point. I mean, there's no reason why we can't. We could do it during the C-Shop. Nah, that'd be weird. All right. Best part of the stream, 123.15. I'm gonna look at that, actually. Whoa. So what was this? Oh, Yanya Puzzleomo, I said. I know you guys can't really hear it. I can hear it a bit. Oh, that was funny. That was my story about if you're trying to help, like, clean up at a party and you don't know what to do, so you move like one plate from a table to another. That's funny. I forgot to do that pull request. That's funny. This is very interesting. I'll see Vulcan first. That would be more useful knowing. But yeah, well, yeah, you know. However, when you do implement Vulcan, please keep OpenGL support at first so you can show how to have it side by side. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. So I actually did that in Hazel. We had that in Hazel 3D. So if you really want to see that, just support on Patreon, and then you can go back in time in the commit history to when we had both Vulcan and OpenGL working. Because we did have that at some point. The reason why I won't be doing that for Hazel 2D is because I've mentioned that, like, it's very, very difficult to maintain both OpenGL and a Vulcan engine. Like, well, no, it's not really about maintenance. It's about architecture. It's very difficult to architect an engine that is, like, suitable to both OpenGL and Vulcan because they're so different to their core. Like, the way they work is so different that you would basically need two different application architectures. It's not just about your renderer, it's about, like, how your whole app works. Because, of course, the app is based around rendering frames, right? So, therefore, if it's a Vulcan app, like, that has a certain requirement, and that works, like, so differently to what you can even do with OpenGL, that you would just need two completely different architectures. And again, there's no real need to do that. Like, yes, certain older platforms don't support Vulcan, but Hazel 2D is, like, we're not interested in supporting that. We're making a game engine series, and the intention is when people finally actually watch this maybe and learn from it, like, I don't want to support stuff that maybe will be gone in a few years, you know what I mean? Because by the time we finish this engine and actually ship something in Hazel 2D, which could be a couple of years from now, like, OpenGL will be even more, like, far gone, you know? So that's why I don't want to do that. Vulcan does support mobile and metal solutions. I don't know what you mean by metal solutions. I don't know if you mean the metal rendering API, which is different. But yes, Vulcan supports Android. Like, Android supports Vulcan, I should say. All the modern modern Android devices use Vulcan. Does Hazel 3D still use GLFW for Windows? Yeah, of course. Why not? It's great. And we've got our own fork. So we, like, for example, we've modified it. We've modified GLFW to, like, add custom title bars and other stuff. So there's no reason for us not to use GLFW if we can just modify the code to suit our needs. Yeah, Vulcan on a Mac, you can use Molten VK, but it only supports, like, Vulcan 1.1, so it's pretty limiting. So it's not ideal. Anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of why. And also Vague Lobster does make a good point here where we use, like, OpenGL 4.5 or 4.6. And, like, you probably want, like, OpenGL, like, I don't know, 3.3 basically, if you want to, like, go back to the really old devices. So I don't really want to do that. Yeah, so that's my answer to Human Gamer, basically. The architecture is just so different that it's just not something I'm interested in putting on all the work for basically no reason. I think we do have guidelines for contribution. I'm just going to skim through these. But is this because... already implemented. What was this? Oh, well, no, I didn't copy. This was already there, though, wasn't it? I just copied the one line, which was the error message. Oh, come on, guys. If you see, this is the thing. I don't know if this person's being serious, but, like, if anyone is salty about me copying and pasting a log message from their pull request, then that's ridiculous. How about you actually contribute something? You know, you know what I mean? Like, contribute some actual. You can't just contribute, like, I don't know, a semicolon or something, and then expect to, like, oh, and then be upset if you don't get into the contributors thing. That's what I don't like. I feel like the contributors list should be people who actually contributed, like, something significant. Not just like, oh yeah, I fixed, like, you know, a spelling mistake. Like, that's not... You can't look at someone's GitHub and be like, oh wow, they contributed to Hazel. That's impressive. And then turns out they just, like, fixed a spelling mistake in a string. Like... That's, I don't know, it's weird. This whole GitHub pull request social network situation is weird. I don't like it. Cherno Uncaged. It's funny. Why don't you name your head as HPP? I don't know, I don't really like to. Yeah. That's a good point, actually. I'm not signed in. Yeah, enums were annoying. I did mention that. Do you know Russian? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Game Engine series. Don't forget, you can support on patreon.com/thecherno, get access to Big Hazel, and you'll also be helping, obviously, to support, you know, this series, and hopefully I'll be able to, like, spend some more time on it, potentially. Same time next week, we'll be beginning our C# journey, which will be very, very exciting. We'll probably spend some time like planning and yeah, talking about exactly how we're going to do that, and hopefully we'll actually dive in and see if we can get like mono built and linking and at least like initialized or something. I think we probably could try like loading some C# DLLs and stuff next time and actually get that far. We'll see. I'll try and like maybe start almost a bit earlier next time. I'll adjust my Twitch schedule, so keep an eye on that, guys. And I might even announce it in the Game Engine series channel on the Discord server, but yeah, we'll see how that goes, because I do want to actually like sit down and get stuff compiling and hopefully actually running basically within Hazel, because that'll be so exciting. All right, thank you guys for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.